So, February. I'm going through the year, catching up. This is the February video. The January video will be linked in the description, and there's like a little bit of an intro to it. It'll also be, sorry, that's the card. It'll be in the card and the description. So, February, now, as I said before, I was still like only reading The Witching Hour by Anne Rice. I already kind of went over that. So, I did not do any other reading in February. Again, regretting not picking up any other book. Another, like, carrying over thing from January into February and into the next month also, like I said before, was making and editing my own videos and watching other people's videos on YouTube talking about, you know, their favorite books and favorite movies from the past year, their goals for this year, if they happen to put that up a little bit later into February. So that was still happening. Lots of YouTube, I feel like. That was mostly what I was watching. I did start watching a little bit more in terms of movies. Shows don't happen until April. No shows, I don't think. Unless I, like, randomly watched an episode of, like, The Vampire Diaries. And here in February is when we get the first inklings of something that has just persisted throughout the rest of the year so far, and that is watching some films from the 1930s, and maybe even kind of more particular pre-code films. I think there are only like 3 or 4 titles in February that kind of apply to this, but so far this year, I've watched like 20 30s films, which is great. Very fun so far. Obviously, you know where that's going in March and April and May. That's going to be like the highlight for certain movies. Since I'm on that, actually, I'll mention certain like movies and people. The way that I have this, like, oh yeah, I have this piece of paper here with like all this information on it, the things that I'm pointing out. So I have other movies that I'll mention momentarily, but then I have like this section that's specifically people that I've been watching a lot of films from, whether it be a director or an actor or actress, or specific titles from the 1930s in particular. Like there's a whole 1930s section down here at the bottom. So the few things that I have to mention for people and movies from the 30s are Claudette Colbert, who I watched. I've been watching some things from her kind of throughout a few months, but it started in February, mostly with Midnight from 1939. It was on the Criterion Channel, and I really enjoyed it. I'm not going to get into like synopses for movies, but I really liked Midnight. And then I also watched Easy Living from 1937. That one stars Jean Arthur. She's not necessarily someone I've been watching a lot from, but she's a prevalent 30s actress, so I thought I would mention that. And then, not from the 30s, I watched like 4 or 5 movies with Romy Schneider in February. I don't remember if there was a like collection in the Criterion Channel of her films, but there were a number of films that she was in that were going off the channel, so I watched a bunch of them. And in particular, my favorite that I watched was Max and the Junkmen from 1971, which I honestly, like, that title is not it. I feel like I was kind of judging it and being like, I don't know if this is going to be that good, but the synopsis sounded interesting, and then it ended up being my favorite of the bunch. Again, like the 4 or 5 films that I watched that she was in. So, this one, I'll tell you a little bit about it since this is definitely less like prominent. I had never heard of it before. This has to do with a police detective played by Michel Piccoli, who like meets an old friend who he can like tell is in criminal activity and thinks that he will do something bigger, and he kind of like instigates it. He goes undercover, like secretly, just of his own tactics, and like infiltrates the guy through his girlfriend, who's played by Romy Schneider, and who happens to be a lady of the night, we'll say. and they kind of start a relationship. Max, the police detective, and Romy Schneider's character, he's pretending to be a banker, and so that's kind of how he's getting the guy to do something bigger. Right now he's just sort of like a petty thief, but he knows that Max knows that he may do something like really big, and so he tries to get him essentially to rob a bank through kind of telling information to the girlfriend and posing as a banker or as someone who works in the bank. But they still kind of connect in a certain way, and you can tell that he's conflicted to a degree with what he's doing because he doesn't necessarily want to hurt her, but also like he's kind of putting this whole thing together. Like it's only because of him that the guy ends up doing anything more. So it's really interesting, and I thought it was really well acted, and I liked this connection that Max, and I can't think of the girl's name, but Romy Schneider's character, I liked what was happening there, and it kind of made you feel conflicted as a viewer because like I kind of wanted them to be together because I still feel like their relationship was like genuine, even though he was faking things. He was kind of putting on a charade in a way. And then for other movies, I don't have anything else written down in the like overview for February, except that I started using tags more on Letterboxd, like in my reviews. This is gonna be so helpful when there's a Discord group that I'm a part of with a bunch of other like movie people and people who make videos or who watch like the same sort of content of film collectors and people who cinephiles, essentially. That's all I have to say, really. And we do these like top 10 Tuesdays, and sometimes the topics that are chosen, I'm like, how am I doing that? Like one time it was like black and white films, and I'm like, obviously the easiest way to narrow that down is just to go to my favorite films list and see which movies on that list are in black and white. But it's not like that's something that is easily, like, you can't easily refine that on Letterboxd. So now I have it as a tag and other things that will just make it a lot easier to kind of hone in on the films that I've seen that are of a certain category. I haven't really gone back and done that with anything else that I've watched prior to February, but I have started that now, and I've been trying to do it consistently for everything I have for the last 4 months. They all have like certain tags and stuff, and mostly it's just for myself. I also include like where I watched it or how I watched it, if the movie is in my collection, like the main country that the movie is from, and what language it's in, multiple languages if it happens to be in multiple languages, maybe a director or maybe an actress or actor if someone is like significant or someone is like an all-time favorite of mine. But I don't really need to mark anything that is easy to like filter by going on, you know, the actress's page or the director's page or whatever. I also have, like, if something is a period piece, I have a period piece tag, but then also whatever period the film takes place in. So if something takes place in like 1964, then it'll be tagged like 1960s, but also 1964. And then I can see all the movies that take place in that specific year or in that decade overall. And again, I don't need to mark what year it's from because I can just click on the year that's already like done by Letterboxd. And then there's other just like random things that I've kind of started. The next month? Yeah, in March, there are a couple of like vampire movies that I watched, but like not horror vampire, but kind of like ethereal in a way. I don't know, there was like a certain vibe that they had, and I created this one tag that was like ethereal horror, or like those two words were involved in it. So there's other sort of like aesthetics or just like moods and vibes and certain terms that I've come up with in categories and labels that I would put on these movies instead of necessarily like making a list or something like that. Yeah, so I've started using tags more. And then the other movies that I wanted to mention specifically was I rewatched Amélie, and I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. This year, I feel like I've just been a lot more open and sentimental and like emotional in a way, and just like freer with my rating, because I've rated a good number of films like 4.5 stars, like Max and the Junkmen, 4.5 stars out of 5. I've just been giving a lot of those lately, I feel like. And there's another movie in April that I watched 5 out of 5. Like, when do I do that? Never, because I don't believe there are 5 out of 5 movies. Really, nothing is perfect. Nothing is going to be 5 out of 5. So that's one of the reasons why I don't have that many, like, 5 out of 5 rated movies on Letterboxd. But I officially have Amélie on that list. Look how menacing this cover looks. I've seen this at least like 4, 5 other times. But it just came up on my feed somehow. Like, I was thinking about it. I don't remember if that was like prompted by something, but I was thinking about Amélie, and then my cousin put something about it on her Instagram story, and I was like, this is a sign. I'm gonna watch this movie again while I re-dye my hair, and that's what I did. Also, you may have noticed, probably not, because my hair is back in a clip. You can still see the difference of color a little bit, but I'm officially letting the green pink duo hair color that is officially fading. So goodbye to an era. It's definitely my favorite thing that I've ever done with my hair, by the way. I just need something new, and it's a lot to like maintain that part, that half. I mean, my hair remembers parts really easily, and I typically have my hair like parted in the middle, but it's a lot to like redo and make sure everything's on the right side, especially with curly hair, and especially since my hair gets like frizzy pretty easily. It's goodbye for now. It's definitely gonna come back. It has been my favorite hair that I've ever done. Yeah, but back in February, I re-dyed it, I touched it up again, and I watched Amélie again. And, I mean, I probably wasn't even paying attention to this for the first, like, probably hour, but it was just, it was really hitting when, like, there's a scene where she's in the kitchen. Oh my god, I'm literally gonna cry. There's a scene where she's, like, in the kitchen, and she's like thinking, she's like sort of daydreaming about the guy the guy character. I'm not gonna get into it, but she's kind of like daydreaming about the guy character, and that he's like in her apartment, and coming through, she has these like beads that kind of separate, that's in that sort of doorway between the kitchen and like the living room, and she imagines him like running his fingers over the beads, and at the same time the beads actually move and like make a sound, and it's because her cat went through the beads, and so he happened, or the cat, I don't know what gender the cat is, but the cat, you know, made the beads make the noise, and she was like a little bit disappointed, and just like that moment really hit, because Amélie is such a character that she loves people and she loves interacting with people, but she's always like fixing other people together and carrying things out for other people and not herself, and she's lonely, and that just like, I was like, whoa. Why is that me? That's hitting a little too close to home. And then that was it. That was the 5 out of 5 moment. I was like, it's really hitting. It's really hitting in that moment. I love Amélie so much. I find it really rewatchable also, and it's one of my favorite movies. So there we go. I think that's it. No, two more things. Two more things. I rewatched Metropolitan from 1990. This was another movie that was in the movie marathon that I had that month. And then lastly, I watched Casablanca. I watched it with my brother, who had never seen it before. So that was a good time. I I'm not exactly sure what he thought of it, but I feel like it was more so something that he just wanted to like check off his list in a way, because something was happening. I think he encountered like 3 references to Casablanca, and he just like didn't understand them fully or knew that there was more implied, and he knew it was from Casablanca, or Casablanca was like mentioned specifically as opposed to like being referenced not by the title. And he just wanted to know. He just wanted to see the movie. So we watched it together. It had been a while since I last saw it. And yeah, I think he like liked it, but I don't really know his thoughts on it. I should ask him. I'll put it in the description maybe, or in a comment or something. And that is it for February. That's it. So moving on to March. Stay tuned. Thank you for watching. Bye.